Recall! Yeah! Snow White and the Huntsman is a movie that came out in 2012, directed by Rupert Sanders, and stars Kristen Stewart, Chris Hemsworth, and Charlize Theron. It's a retelling of the classic Snow White fairy tale in which an evil queen kidnaps her stepdaughter Snow White, who holds the key to her immortality. In this version of the story, Snow White escapes from the clutches of the evil queen, and the queen then sends out a huntsman played by Chris Hemsworth in order to kill her. The huntsman, however, falls for Snow White's charms, and the two of them hatch a plan to defeat the evil queen, aided along the way by 7 dwarves and a town's full of angry people. I saw this movie back in 2012 in theatres when it first came out, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. I watched it again today with a fresh pair of eyes, and, well, I was kinda right and I was kinda wrong. For starters, the one thing that really jumps out from the opening frames of the movie was the cinematography. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie to look at. Every frame, the way it was composed, the artwork that went into it, you can really tell by the production design, the costumes, the sets, everything about it. It looked like a first-grade production. So in that respect, it definitely hooked me into the movie from the start. The performances ranged from pretty good to pretty bad, but the one thing that stood out for me this time around, I was actually kind of wrong about Kristen Stewart. She wasn't really that bad given the material. The thing I seem to remember was that she gave a really wooden performance and kind of had the emotional range of a bag of frozen vegetables, but overall she wasn't too bad, and I gotta hand it to her accent was really good. She did a British accent for her character, and yeah, I was convinced she did a pretty good job of that. Chris Hemsworth as well, he wasn't too bad. But the thing with the characters, I don't know, they just weren't great characters. And I didn't really feel any emotional connection. It was just kind of flat. The special effects in the movie, kind of like the performances, they ranged from okay to, well, actually, some of them were really good. On the plus side, the dwarves, they cast people like Ian McShane, Bob Hoskins in roles as the dwarves, and I honestly believe they were little people. On the other hand, though, things like creature effects and animals didn't really look that convincing. Another thing that I thought was a major plus was the score by James Newton Howard. It wasn't just one of those cases where the music, captured the emotions of the scenes, that sort of thing, but there were some really memorable melodies through it. And yeah, I actually found myself quite often paying more attention to the score than I was to anything that was actually happening in the story. So while the movie did have a few positives, look, overall, it was just devoid of any sort of joy to watch. It was a really depressing movie, and I know that there is this trend these days of movies to be dark. I mean, now we have a dark Superman. And I do get that the original story, the original fairy tale, I should say, does come from much darker sort of stories that were designed to scare kids. But at the same time, this really fell flat for me. It's one thing to have an over-the-top kind of villain or, something like that, but you just want them to have a bit of personality. I mean, look at Alan Rickman's sheriff in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I mean, my God, that guy just, it was such a memorable performance in a pretty good movie. Whereas Charlize Theron in this, oh man, she annoyed me, to be honest. I've read, a few critics have said that, she gave a really wonderful performance as the villain, but to me, she sort of went from just being really monotonous to way too over the top, and I just couldn't get into her performance. But the overall tone in the movie, it was just, it had no charisma or anything like that. And there were a few moments in the movie you could tell they were trying to put a joke across or, lighten the mood a little bit. Like when we first meet Chris Hemsworth, Huntsman, and he's having a drunken fight in the street, accidentally throws a punch and hits a horse, and the horse, kicks back and knocks him over. And you could tell that it was meant to be funny, but yeah, it really wasn't. And also the dwarves, there were a few moments where they were apparently making jokes, but just because this movie had no soul, it just didn't make me laugh. I didn't really find the script to be that well written either. It The dialogue was just the bare minimum to progress the story, but there was nothing really creative in the words. There was, again, no emotional connection with the characters, and I think that was largely because of the dialogue. So look, again, while the movie did have some merits, overall, it's not the kind of movie I'd want to see again. I mean, I did have this voice in the back of my head that was going, no, don't watch it again, but I thought I better watch it so I can review it in leading up to the sequel that I'm going to see tomorrow. And yeah, I really don't think I'm ever going to be watching it again. So on the plus side, it was a beautiful movie to look at, but yeah, there's a lot of negatives going for it. And for that reason, I'm going to give Snow White and the Huntsman a 4 out of 10. I'm still looking forward to seeing Huntsman Winter's War tomorrow, because the trailer actually looks pretty good, but, you know, you can't really tell too much from trailers these days, so stay tuned for my review of that one. In the meantime, thank you very, very much once again for everyone who's subscribed, and not only that, I've had a lot of people who have been asking me if I'm going to take requests to do movie reviews, and absolutely, drop me some comments on either YouTube or Facebook, let me know if there's any movies that you'd like me to review. Hopefully it'll be something I haven't seen before. That'll be a good excuse for me to check it out. So that's pretty much all I came here to say. Drop me some comments because I like to talk about movies and I'd love to talk about movies with you. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, hit subscribe. Do it now. Yeah.